Captain June stood on the bridge of Aegis Prime, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. The space station orbited at the edge of human territory, far from Earth but close to the unknown. He had been stationed here for 3 years and nothing exciting ever happened. Ships came and went carrying supplies to the outer colonies. It was peaceful work, but sometimes June wished for something more interesting. That wish came true in the worst possible way. The communication console started beeping with an urgent signal. Lieutenant Commander Hana rushed to her station, her fingers dancing across the controls. "Captain, we're getting a transmission from deep space." "It's not from any human ship." June felt his stomach tighten. First contact with aliens was something humanity had always expected, but never experienced. "Put it on the main screen." The image that appeared made everyone on the bridge step back in shock. The creature was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It looked like it was made of living crystal, with light flowing through its transparent body like blood. When it spoke, its voice sounded like music and thunder mixed together. "I am High Arbiter Velthane of the Galactic Council. I speak for the 12 great civilizations that have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. You call yourselves humans and you have become a problem." June found his voice, though it came out weaker than he wanted. "This is Captain June of the human deep space station Aegis Prime. We welcome contact with your people." The crystal being's eyes flashed brighter. "This is not a welcome. This is a warning. Your species has expanded too quickly across the stars. In less than 200 years, you have claimed 17 star systems. You build weapons. You fight wars. You take what you want without asking permission. We haven't encountered any other intelligent life," June said, confused. "We didn't know anyone owned those systems." "Ignorance is not an excuse," Velthane replied coldly. "The Galactic Council has watched your species since you first left your birth world. We have seen your violence, your greed, your endless hunger for more territory. You are too young, too dangerous to be allowed such freedom." Hana was recording everything, her face pale with shock. Around the bridge, other crew members watched in stunned silence. This was not how anyone had imagined first contact would go. "What do you want from us?" June asked. "The Council has decided that humanity must return to its proper place. You have 30 standard days to withdraw from all star systems except your birth system. Remove your colonies, your space stations, your ships. Return to Earth and stay there until you have learned to behave properly." The words hit June like a physical blow. 17 systems meant millions of people, entire worlds where humans had built new lives. "That's impossible. We have 400 million people living in those systems. They can't just abandon everything they've built." "They can and they will," Velthane said without emotion. "If humanity does not comply, the Council will take corrective measures. Your species will be contained by force." "You're talking about war," June said, his anger rising despite his fear. "We are talking about order. The galaxy has been peaceful under Council rule for thousands of years. We will not allow one violent young species to destroy that peace." The crystal being leaned forward, and June could see his own reflection in its faceted surface. 30 days, Captain. Use them wisely." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in complete silence. June stared at the empty screen, his mind racing. Everything had changed in just a few minutes. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, but their new neighbors wanted to cage them like dangerous animals. "Hana, send that recording to Earth Command immediately. Use the quantum relay." "Already done, sir," Hana replied, her voice steady despite the shock. "Admiral Kyung should receive it within the hour." June nodded and walked to his command chair. He had never felt the weight of command so heavily. "What do you think? Can they do what they threatened?" "If they've been watching us for 200 years without us knowing, they have technology far beyond ours," Hana said quietly. "They could probably destroy our entire fleet without trying very hard. But would they really attack civilian colonies?" Asked Communications Officer Min from his station. "They called us violent and dangerous," June replied. "If they believe that, they might think attacking our colonies would be protecting the galaxy from us." The next few hours passed slowly. Ships throughout human space began receiving the same message from the Galactic Council. Panic spread quickly as news of the ultimatum reached every human world. Some colonies began preparing to evacuate, while others talked about fighting. Admiral Kyung's response came faster than expected. The gruff old admiral appeared on screen looking tired and angry. "June, I've been in emergency meetings with the President and the Defense Council. We're not backing down." "Sir, think about what they're asking, Captain. They want us to abandon 17 star systems. That includes the mining worlds that supply our industries, the agricultural planets that feed billions of people, and the research stations that are developing new technologies. If we give up those systems, humanity will be crippled. June understood, but he also understood the alternative. They have ships and weapons we can't match, Admiral. Maybe, but we don't know how many ships they have or if all their member species really want to fight us. Intelligence suggests the Galactic Council might not be as united as they pretend. What are our orders? Prepare for war, Captain. Start moving non-essential personnel away from the border, but keep your station operational. If they want to force us back to Earth, they'll have to come through you first. After the transmission ended, June called his senior staff together. The meeting room felt smaller than usual, filled with tension and uncertainty. You heard the Admiral, June said. We're not abandoning human space without a fight. I know this isn't what any of us signed up for, but this is where we are. Chief Engineer Wu spoke up first. Our weapons are designed to fight human ships. We have no idea if they'll even work against alien technology. Then we'll have to adapt quickly, June replied. What about our defenses? The station's shields and armor can handle anything in the human arsenal, Wu said. But again, we don't know what we're facing. Security Chief Da was blunt. We have 300 crew members and a handful of fighters. If the aliens send a real fleet, we're dead. Maybe, June said. But we're not going to make it easy for them. This station guards the main route to the inner systems. If we can slow them down, give Earth more time to prepare, then we've done our job. The meeting continued for another hour, planning everything from evacuation procedures to last-ditch defensive measures. Nobody talked about winning. They all knew the odds were against them. That night, June stood alone on the observation deck looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien ships were probably already moving toward human space. In 30 days, everything would change. He thought about his sister Sue, who worked in intelligence back on Earth. She would be busy trying to gather information about their new enemies. He thought about the millions of colonists who would soon face an impossible choice: abandon their homes or fight an unwinnable war. Most of all, he thought about what it meant to be human. The Galactic Council saw them as violent and dangerous, too young to be trusted with freedom. Maybe they were right about the violent part. Humans had certainly fought enough wars among themselves, but they had also built beautiful cities, created amazing art, and reached for the stars despite every obstacle. If being human meant fighting for the right to choose their own path among the stars, then June was ready to fight. Even if it meant standing against an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. The countdown had begun. 29 days remained before humanity would discover if they were truly alone in their defiance, or if the galaxy held other species who remembered what freedom meant. The days passed like water through a broken dam. Across human space, 17 star systems buzzed with activity as people prepared for war or evacuation. Some chose to flee toward Earth, packing everything they could carry. Others dug in deeper, refusing to abandon the worlds they had spent generations building. On the industrial world of New Sol, Engineer Wu worked 18-hour shifts in the massive shipyards. The order from Earth Command was simple but impossible. Upgrade every human ship with new weapons that could fight alien technology. The problem was that nobody knew exactly what alien technology could do. We're shooting in the dark, Wu muttered as he studied the latest weapon designs. His team had been trying to reverse engineer alien technology from sensor readings, but it was like trying to build a computer from a photograph. His assistant, Young, looked up from her workstation. What about the quantum torpedoes? If we can destabilize their energy shields— If they use energy shields, Wu interrupted. For all we know, their ships are made of something we can't even damage. Despite the uncertainty, they kept working. Human engineers across the systems were developing new weapons, stronger armor, and faster engines. It might not be enough, but doing nothing meant certain defeat. Meanwhile, on the agricultural world of New Busan, Farmer Tai stood in his fields watching the sunset. His family had been growing rice here for 3 generations, turning empty soil into fertile farmland. The idea of abandoning everything made his chest tight with anger. "Dad, the evacuation ships are leaving tomorrow," his daughter said, walking up beside him. "We should go," Tai shook his head. "This is our home. My father died protecting this land from raiders. My grandfather broke his back clearing these fields. I won't run just because some aliens tell us to." But the Galactic Council has weapons we can't fight. Maybe. But they don't know these fields like we do. They don't know every hill, every stream, every place to hide. Tay picked up a handful of soil and let it run through his fingers. If they want our world, they'll have to take it from us. Across New Busan, other farming families were making the same choice. They organized militias, dug bunkers, and prepared to defend their homes with whatever weapons they could find. They knew they couldn't win a space battle, but they could make occupation costly. Far from the farming worlds, in the sterile corridors of Earth's intelligence headquarters, Sue worked through another sleepless night. Her job was to learn everything possible about the Galactic Council before the war began. So far, the results were both encouraging and terrifying. The Council isn't as united as they pretend, she told Admiral Kyung during their daily briefing. Our deep space sensors have detected arguments between their member species. Some of them don't want to fight us. Which ones? Kyung asked, leaning forward. The Vorthak, for one. They're a reptilian species that joined the Council 2,000 years ago. Before that, they were explorers and traders spreading across dozens of systems. The Council forced them to give up most of their territory and stay in just 5 systems. Sounds familiar, Kyung said grimly. There are others too. The Mysel Network, the Iron Caste, several smaller species. They all have reasons to resent Council rule. Sue pulled up a star chart showing alien territories. If we could convince some of them to stay neutral or even help us. That's a big if, Kyung said. But keep trying. Right now we need every advantage we can get. Sue nodded and returned to her work. Making contact with alien species was dangerous, but it might be humanity's only hope. She began composing carefully worded messages to send toward Vorthak space, hoping someone would listen. In the outer systems, Captain Mina commanded the evacuation fleet. Her job was to move civilian populations away from the border worlds, but it was harder than anyone expected. Many people simply refused to leave. Please reconsider, she told the mayor of Haven Colony during a video call. We have transport ships waiting. Captain, my people have spent 15 years building this colony, the mayor replied. We have factories, schools, homes. We can't just walk away. The Galactic Council will destroy everything anyway. Maybe, but if we run now, we destroy it ourselves. The mayor's face was tired, but determined. We're staying. Mina had the same conversation dozens of times with dozens of colonies. In the end, she could only evacuate those who wanted to leave. Millions of others chose to stay and face whatever was coming. As the deadline approached, long-range sensors detected the first alien ships entering human space. They moved slowly, deliberately, like predators stalking prey. The ships were massive and strange, unlike anything humans had ever built. Biological ships, Dr. Young reported after studying the sensor data. Some of them are actually alive, grown rather than built. Others seem to be made of crystalline materials that bend space around them. Admiral Kyung studied the reports in his command center deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. The alien fleet was larger than Earth's entire navy, with technologies that seemed like magic. But he had been a soldier for 40 years and he knew that every enemy had weaknesses. What about their tactics? He asked his staff. Very formal and organized, Intelligence Officer Ho replied. They move in perfect formations, never breaking ranks. Their communication patterns suggest a rigid command structure. Good. Rigid enemies make mistakes when things don't go according to plan. Kyung turned to his fleet commanders. Our ships are faster and more maneuverable than theirs. We can't match their firepower, but we can outrun them. Hit-and-run tactics? Asked Captain Da. Exactly. We hurt them and disappear before they can respond. Make them chase us through asteroid fields and nebulae where their big ships can't follow. Kyung pointed to the tactical display. We can't win a stand-up fight, but we can make them pay for every system they take. The final preparations were almost complete. Human ships took positions throughout the outer systems, ready to delay the alien advance as long as possible. Colonies that couldn't be evacuated prepared for siege. Weapons factories worked around the clock to produce ammunition and spare parts. On Aegis Prime, Captain June watched his crew make the station ready for battle. They had spent weeks installing new weapons and reinforcing the shields. It still wouldn't be enough, but they would make their stand here. Any word from the Vorthak? He asked Hana. Sue's messages are still traveling. Even if they respond immediately, we won't hear back for days. June nodded. They were on their own for now. What about our defensive preparations? The asteroid field is mined and ready. If the aliens come straight at us, they'll walk into a trap. Hana paused. Of course, if they're smart, they'll just go around us. Then we'll have to make sure they don't ignore us, June said. Ready the fighters and prep the station for combat. It's almost time. The countdown reached its final hours. Across human space, millions of people waited to see if diplomacy would save them or if war was inevitable. The Galactic Council's ultimatum had given humanity a choice. Submit or fight. Humanity had chosen to fight. In the outer system of Haven's Gate, sensors detected the first alien war fleet dropping out of faster-than-light travel. The ships were massive and beautiful in a terrifying way, moving with the confidence of a civilization that had never lost a war. War Marshal Zeth Kara stood on the bridge of the Council flagship, studying the human defensive positions. The organic ship around him pulsed with life, its living computers calculating the best way to crush this young species' defiance. Open a channel to their commander, Zeth Kara ordered. Captain June's image appeared on the alien view screen, transmitted from Aegis Prime. The human looked young and afraid, but there was something else in his eyes that troubled the War Marshal. It looked like determination. This is your final chance, Zeth Kara said. Surrender now and your people will be relocated safely. Continue to resist and we will remove you by force. June's reply was simple and clear. We will not abandon our homes. If you want them, you'll have to take them. The transmission ended. War Marshal Zeth Kara had hoped the humans would be reasonable when faced with overwhelming force. Instead, they chose to fight a war they could not win. All ships begin the attack, he ordered. Show them the price of defying the Council. The war for humanity's future was about to begin. The alien fleet filled the space around Haven's Gate like a storm cloud made of metal and light. Captain June had seen big fleets before, but nothing like this. The Council ships were massive, some over 10 kilometers long, and they moved with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large. 67 ships confirmed, Hana reported from her station, including 12 dreadnoughts and what looks like a mobile space station. June felt sweat on his palms despite the cool air on the bridge. His human fleet consisted of 18 ships, most of them destroyers and frigates. They were outnumbered and outgunned by enemies using technology humanity barely understood. All ships, this is Captain June, he broadcast to the human fleet. Remember, we're not trying to win this battle. We're trying to buy time for the inner systems to prepare. Hit them hard, then get out. Don't be heroes. The first shots came from the alien flagship. A beam of pure energy lanced across space, striking Haven Station's shields. The defensive barrier flared and held, but June could see the power readings dropping fast. Return fire, he ordered. The human ships opened up with everything they had. Missiles streaked toward the alien fleet while energy beams and kinetic rounds followed close behind. For a moment, June felt hope as explosions bloomed against alien hulls. Then the enemy shields activated. The alien defenses were like nothing humans had ever seen. Instead of the energy barriers used by human ships, the Council vessels seemed to bend space around themselves. Missiles curved away from their targets, energy beams scattered harmlessly, and even kinetic rounds slowed to a stop before reaching the alien hulls. Our weapons aren't getting through, reported Commander Wu from the engineering station. June watched his fleet's attacks fail completely while the aliens returned, fire with devastating precision. The destroyer Seoul took a direct hit and exploded in a ball of flame. The frigate New Tokyo lost power and began spinning helplessly. All ships fall back to the asteroid field, June ordered. Execute Plan Delta. The human fleet scattered, retreating toward the dense asteroid belt that surrounded Haven's Gate. It was a dangerous place to fight, but it might give them some advantage over the larger alien ships. War Marshal Zeth Kara watched the humans flee with satisfaction. The engagement had lasted less than 10 minutes, and already the human fleet was broken and running. Their weapons were primitive, their tactics simple, and their ships fragile. This would be easier than expected. Pursue them, he ordered. End this quickly. The alien fleet moved into the asteroid field in perfect formation, their sensors tracking the fleeing human ships. Zeth Kara had fought hundreds of battles across the galaxy, always winning through superior firepower and technology. These humans would be no different. That confidence lasted until the first mine exploded. The asteroid field had been seeded with hundreds of nuclear devices, hidden inside normal-looking rocks. When the alien ships passed close enough, The mines detonated in a chain reaction that lit up space like a new sun. Damage report, Zethkara demanded as his ship shook from the explosions. Minor hull damage to the outer ship, his tactical officer replied. The mines were too small to penetrate our armor, but the explosions had done something else. They had filled the asteroid field with radioactive debris and electromagnetic interference, making it harder for the alien sensors to track the human ships. From his hiding place behind a large asteroid, Captain June watched the alien formation spread out as they searched for his ships. The mines hadn't destroyed any enemy vessels, but they had disrupted their perfect organization. Now, he whispered into his communicator. The human ships attacked from all directions at once, appearing from behind asteroids like ancient submarines surfacing to torpedo enemy vessels. They couldn't penetrate the alien shields, but they had learned something important during the first exchange. Pilot Min, flying one of the small human fighters, discovered it by accident. As he dove toward an alien cruiser, the ship's defensive systems tried to lock onto his fighter. But something was wrong with their targeting. The alien weapons kept missing, as if they couldn't quite figure out where his ship was. "Captain, I think their sensors have trouble tracking us," Min reported over the radio. "It's like our ships are invisible to them." June realized what was happening. Human neural patterns were different from anything the aliens had encountered before. Their targeting systems designed to track known species were having trouble predicting human movements. "All ships, random evasive maneuvers," June ordered. "Don't follow any pattern. Be unpredictable." The human fleet began flying in ways that made no sense to alien tactical computers. Ships would suddenly change direction for no apparent reason, speed up or slow down randomly, and attack from unexpected angles. It was chaotic and wasteful, but it worked. The alien weapons, designed to predict target movements based on logical tactical doctrine, couldn't hit ships that moved without logic. For the first time in the battle, human ships began landing hits on alien vessels. Commander Da, commanding the destroyer Busan, found that rapid-fire kinetic rounds could overwhelm the alien shields if fired fast enough. The energy barriers were designed to stop large, powerful attacks, but hundreds of small projectiles fired in quick succession could get through. "Target their weapon systems," Da ordered his gunners. "Keep firing until they stop shooting back." The battle turned into a deadly game of hide-and-seek among the asteroids. The alien ships were more powerful, but the humans were faster and more unpredictable. Every time the aliens tried to establish control, human ships would appear from unexpected directions and strike at their weak points. War Marshal Zethkara was no longer confident. His fleet was taking damage, and the humans were proving much more difficult to defeat than expected. Their tactics were chaotic and their technology primitive, but they fought with a desperation that made them dangerous. "Deploy the biohunters," he ordered. "Let them taste human fear." The Council's most terrifying weapons emerged from the larger ships. The biohunters were living creatures the size of fighter craft, bred for war and enhanced with mechanical parts. They could think and adapt, learning from each encounter to become more deadly. Captain June watched in horror as the organic ships spread through the asteroid field. They moved like living things because they were living things, predators designed to hunt down smaller prey. "All fighters retreat to the station," he ordered. There was no point in sending human pilots against creatures that could learn and adapt faster than any training program. But Pilot Min had other ideas. Instead of retreating, he flew straight toward the nearest biohunter, firing everything his fighter carried. The creature tried to dodge, but Min did something no rational pilot would do. He rammed his fighter directly into the biohunter's body. The explosion destroyed both ships, but it also revealed something important. The biohunters were tough and smart, but they were still alive. "They could be killed, did you see that?" Dr. Young called out from her research station aboard Aegis Prime. "The biohunter bled when it died. If it bleeds, it has biological systems we can target." June understood immediately. All ships target the biohunters with biological weapons. Poison gas, viral programs, anything that affects living tissue. The human ships began using weapons that had been banned in warfare between civilized species: chemical weapons, biological agents, and computer viruses designed to attack organic neural systems. The Council had never faced such weapons because no species had ever been desperate enough to use them. The biohunters began dying, their enhanced bodies unable to cope with toxins designed to kill Earth organisms. The alien fleet found itself fighting an enemy that used weapons no civilized species would consider. "This is barbaric," War Marshal Zethkara said as he watched his biohunters fall. "These humans fight without honor." But even as the tide of battle shifted, more alien ships were arriving. The human fleet was down to half strength, and Haven Station's shields were failing. June knew they couldn't hold much longer. Then his communications officer picked up a transmission from deep space. Ships were approaching from the edge of the system. But they weren't human, and they weren't part of the Galactic Council fleet. "Captain, I'm reading Vorthak signatures," Hannah announced. Her voice filled with hope. The reptilian ships emerged from faster-than-light travel and immediately opened fire on the Council fleet. Their weapons were different from both human and Council technology, using some form of plasma that could penetrate alien shields. "This is War Leader Kath of the Vorthak Republic," came a transmission in accented English. "We stand with humanity against Council tyranny. All free species must unite against oppression." The battle became a three-way fight as Vorthak ships engaged the Council fleet from the flank. War Marshal Zethkara found himself fighting a two-front battle in a crowded asteroid field, against enemies using tactics he had never encountered. "All ships, withdraw," he finally ordered. "We will return with a larger fleet." The alien armada began retreating, leaving behind several destroyed ships and taking moderate damage to their remaining vessels. It was not the quick victory the Council had expected. As the alien fleet disappeared into faster-than-light travel, Captain June slumped in his command chair. They had survived the first battle, but barely. The war was just beginning, and next time the Council would be ready for human attack. The war had been going on for 3 months, and the galaxy was no longer the same place it had been when the Galactic Council first threatened humanity. What started as one species refusing to bow to ancient authority had become something much larger and more dangerous to the old order. On Earth, in the intelligence headquarters beneath Geneva, Sue worked with data that would have been impossible to gather just months earlier. Her wall screen showed star maps marking dozens of species across the galaxy, color-coded by their relationship to the conflict. "The Council's support is cracking," she reported to Admiral Kyung during their morning briefing. 17 species have declared neutrality. 6 have openly joined our alliance, and intelligence suggests at least 4 more are considering rebellion. Kyung studied the charts with satisfaction. What triggered the cascade? The battle at Haven's Gate. When the Vorthak attacked the Council fleet, it proved that the old order could be challenged. Other species saw that and began asking why they should submit to Council rule. The Free Worlds Alliance had grown far beyond what anyone expected. The Vorthak brought military experience and advanced plasma weapons. The Mysel network contributed biological technology and hive mind coordination. The Silicon Collective offered quantum computing and advanced sensors. Smaller species added their own unique capabilities. But the real strength of the alliance wasn't technology. It was the idea that had spread across the galaxy like wildfire, that no species should bow to tyrants, no matter how old or powerful they claimed to be. Dr. Young had made the breakthrough that changed everything. Working with captured alien technology and data from allied species, she had discovered something the Council had hidden for thousands of years. Human consciousness operated on quantum frequencies that most aliens couldn't perceive or predict. "We're natural chaos generators," she explained to Captain June during a secure video call. "Our neural patterns create quantum interference that disrupts their prediction systems. That's why their weapons kept missing us at Haven's Gate. Can we use that somehow? I'm working on it. If we can build a device that broadcasts human consciousness patterns, we might be able to disrupt their entire fleet coordination system." While Dr. Young worked on quantum weapons, the war had spread across dozens of star systems. Captain Mina led guerrilla raids against Council supply lines, using captured alien ships modified with human technology. Her mixed crews of humans and allied species struck fast and disappeared before the Council could respond. The raids were successful beyond all expectations. Council logistics had been designed for a galaxy that obeyed their rules, where supply convoys moved along established routes without fear of attack. Human tactics of hit-and-run warfare were completely outside their experience. Their military doctrine hasn't changed in 2,000 years, War Leader Kath explained during an alliance strategy meeting. They expect their enemies to fight honorably in open battle, using conventional tactics. Humans fight to win, regardless of honor. On the surface of New Busan, Farmer Tai had become something he never expected, a resistance leader. The council had occupied his world with ground forces, but controlling a planet was different from conquering it. They have the cities, he told his militia commanders as they met in a hidden bunker beneath his fields, but they don't understand the countryside. Every hill, every forest, every stream can be a weapon if you know how to use it. The occupation forces were from a species called the hegemony, tall humanoids with gray skin and no understanding of agriculture. They could destroy human settlements with orbital bombardment, but they couldn't make the land produce food without human knowledge. Tai's people had spent generations learning to work with New Busan's soil, weather, and native organisms. They knew which plants were edible, which streams were safe to drink from, and how to hide in terrain that looked flat and empty to alien eyes. The guerrilla war on New Busan became a model for resistance movements across occupied worlds. Council forces found themselves fighting shadows, never knowing when a supply convoy would disappear or a command post would be attacked by farmers with improvised weapons. But the council was adapting too. War Marshal Zeth Kara had learned from his defeat at Haven's Gate and was developing new tactics specifically for fighting humans. His forces had begun using biological weapons of their own, targeting human-specific genetics. "They're trying to turn our own biology against us," Admiral Kyung explained during a high-level strategy meeting. "Engineered viruses, genetic toxins, weapons that only affect human DNA." President Ho looked grim as she studied the reports. "Can we defend against that?" Dr. Young thinks so. She's working with micelle network biotechnology to develop countermeasures, but it's an arms race now. They develop new weapons, we develop new defenses. The real war was happening on multiple levels. Ships fought in space while armies clashed on planets and scientists raced to develop weapons that could end the conflict. But beneath it all was a deeper struggle for the soul of the galaxy. The Galactic Council had ruled through fear and tradition for 10,000 years. They claimed their authority came from wisdom and experience, but younger species were beginning to see it differently. The Council ruled because they had always ruled, and they stayed in power by preventing anyone else from growing strong enough to challenge them. "Look at this data," Sue said, showing her latest intelligence analysis to anyone who would listen. "The Council doesn't just limit territorial expansion. They restrict technology development, population growth, even cultural exchange between species. They've been keeping the entire galaxy in stagnation for millennia." The revelation that the Council actively suppressed other species hit like a shockwave. Species that had accepted limited territories and restricted technology for thousands of years suddenly understood that they had been prisoners, not protected children. Rebellions began breaking out across the galaxy. The crystalline hegemony, oldest of the Council's member species, faced uprisings on dozens of worlds as younger crystals demanded freedom to grow and explore. The machine collective split in half as some artificial intelligences chose to join the organic rebellion against their digital masters. In the Outer Rim territories, Captain June commanded a mixed fleet of human, Vorthak, and rebel ships. His mission was to capture Nexus Prime, the ancient space station where the Galactic Council had ruled for 10,000 years. It was an impossible mission. Nexus Prime was protected by the largest fleet in the galaxy and defensive systems that had never been tested in battle. But the symbolic value of attacking the Council's home was worth any risk. "We're not trying to destroy the station," June explained to his fleet commanders. "We're trying to prove that it can be attacked. If we can threaten the Council's seat of power, it will show every species in the galaxy that the old order can fall." Dr. Young's quantum disruptor was finally ready, a massive device that could broadcast human consciousness patterns across an entire star system. The theory was that it would disrupt Council coordination systems and make their ships as unpredictable as human vessels. "Will it work?" June asked during the final mission briefing. "In theory, yes," Dr. Young replied, "but we've never tested it on this scale. It might disrupt their systems, or it might just give every alien in the system a headache. Or it might not work at all," added Chief Engineer Wu. "We're betting everything on technology we barely understand, using principles that violate half the laws of physics." June looked around the briefing room at his mixed crew of humans and aliens. 3 months ago, most of these species had never met each other. Now they were preparing to attack the most heavily defended target in the galaxy. "Does anyone want to back out?" he asked. Nobody moved. War leader Kath spoke for all of them. The council believes that might makes right, that age grants authority, that tradition justifies oppression. It is time to prove them wrong. The fleet began its approach to Nexus Prime, knowing that success would change the galaxy forever, and failure would probably mean extinction for every species involved. But win or lose, they had already accomplished something important. They had united dozens of species under a single banner, not of conquest, but of freedom. They had shown that the old order could be challenged and that even the mightiest empire could bleed. The council had ruled through fear for 10,000 years. Now, for the first time, they were the ones who were afraid. As the Alliance fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Nexus Prime system, they faced the largest concentration of military power the galaxy had ever seen. But they also carried something the Council had never faced before: the combined determination of every species that refused to kneel. The final battle was about to begin. Nexus Prime hung in space like a crystal city built by gods. The ancient space station was larger than most moons, its spires and towers reaching out for hundreds of kilometers in all directions. For 10,000 years, it had been the center of galactic civilization, the place where the 12 ruling species decided the fate of everyone else. Admiral June stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the massive station grow larger on the view screen. His promotion had come after Admiral Kyung sacrificed himself to save the colony fleet at New Terra, and now June commanded the largest Alliance armada ever assembled. "Sensor reading complete," reported Commander Hana. 1,500 council ships defending the station, including their entire dreadnought fleet. Estimated firepower is 50 times greater than our entire force. The numbers should have been terrifying, but June felt strangely calm. They had come too far to be stopped by impossible odds. "Status of the quantum disruptor? Dr. Young reports ready for activation," replied Chief Engineer Wu. "But she wants to remind you that we still don't know exactly what it will do." "It will either save us or kill us," June said simply. "Either way, we'll find out together." The Alliance fleet was a strange sight. Human ships flew alongside Vorthak cruisers, Mysel biovessels, and craft from 24 other species. They had different technologies, different fighting styles, and different reasons for being here. But they shared one thing: a refusal to bow to tyranny. High Arbiter. Velthane watched the approaching fleet from the council chambers at the heart of Nexus Prime. The crystal being had ruled for 3,000 years, longer than some species had existed. The idea that this young rebellion could threaten the eternal order was almost incomprehensible. "They cannot seriously believe they can defeat us," said War Marshal Zeth Kara, who had arrived to coordinate the station's defense. "Perhaps not," Belthane replied, "but they believe something more dangerous. They believe they have the right to try." The council chamber held representatives of the 12 ruling species, ancient beings who had maintained galactic order since before recorded history. They had crushed dozens of rebellions over the millennia, but none had ever grown this large or united so many species against them. "The humans have infected the galaxy with their chaotic thinking," declared Overseer Thane of the Machine Collective. "They must be eliminated completely along with any species that harbors their ideology." "Agreed," said Prime Hive Mind Zur of the Cerebral Dominion. "Freedom is a disease that spreads if not contained. We should have destroyed Earth when we first detected their expansion." But High Arbiter Velthane was beginning to have doubts. 3,000 years of rule had taught him that power without consent was fragile, and consent could not be forced indefinitely. The humans had shown the galaxy something the Council had tried to make them forget: that there was an alternative to submission. The battle began with a message broadcast across all frequencies. Admiral June's voice reached every ship in both fleets, every listening post in the system, and every communications device on Nexus Prime itself. "To all species of the galaxy," he began, "today we fight not for conquest but for freedom. Not to replace one empire with another, but to ensure that no species ever again bows to tyrants. The Galactic Council claims authority over you through age and tradition. We claim authority over ourselves through right and determination." The word spread across the galaxy at the speed of light, carried by communication networks the Council could not shut down. On thousands of worlds and millions of cities, countless beings heard a human admiral declare that freedom was not a gift to be granted by rulers, but a right to be claimed by the ruled. "All ships, Begin the attack, June ordered. The Alliance fleet charged toward Nexus Prime in a formation that would have given any military academy instructor nightmares. Human ships flew chaotic patterns while Vorthak vessels maintained rigid formations. Mycel bioships moved like living things while Silicon Collective craft calculated precise mathematical approaches. It should have been a disaster. Instead, it was exactly what Dr. Young had hoped for. Activating Quantum Disruptor now, she announced from her position deep in the flagship's hull. The device hummed to life, broadcasting human consciousness patterns across the entire star system. Every computer, every sensor, every targeting system suddenly had to deal with quantum interference that followed no logical pattern. The effect on the Council fleet was immediate and devastating. Ships that had coordinated perfectly for thousands of years suddenly couldn't predict each other's movements. Targeting systems designed to track logical flight patterns couldn't lock onto ships that moved without reason. War Marshal Zethkara watched in horror as his perfectly organized fleet began colliding with itself. Ships turned into the paths of their own allies. Weapons fired at friendly targets and communication systems broadcast random noise instead of tactical data. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Unknown interference," his tactical officer reported. "All systems are malfunctioning simultaneously." But the chaos affected more than just machines. Across the galaxy, beings whose minds were connected to quantum networks suddenly found themselves thinking thoughts that weren't their own. The rigid mental patterns of hive minds began breaking down as human individuality infected their collective consciousness. On Nexus Prime hive mind, Zur clutched his head in agony as millions of drones suddenly began acting independently. The machine collective's network crashed as artificial intelligences experienced something they had never known before: the desire to be free. The Alliance fleet pressed their attack, taking advantage of the confusion to close with the larger Council ships. Human fighters, their pilots' minds naturally resistant to the quantum interference, darted between massive dreadnoughts like insects attacking giants. Captain Mina led a squadron of mixed ships toward the station's main docking bay. Her mission was to land troops inside Nexus Prime and capture the Council chambers. It was supposed to be impossible, but impossible had become humanity's specialty. "Follow me in," she called to her squadron. "Stay unpredictable and keep moving." The docking bay defenses tried to target the incoming ships, but their systems couldn't cope with pilots who changed direction for no reason, accelerated randomly, and seemed to actively avoid making sense. Mina's ship slipped through defensive fire that should have destroyed them easily. Inside Nexus Prime, the station's ancient corridors filled with Alliance troops from a dozen species. They moved through halls that had seen 10,000 years of unquestioned rule, heading for the Council chambers where the fate of the galaxy would be decided. High Arbiter Velthane felt the quantum interference affecting even his crystalline consciousness. Human thoughts, chaotic and individual, kept intruding on his perfect mental order. For the first time in millennia, he experienced doubt, uncertainty, and something that might have been fear. The Council chamber's massive doors exploded inward as Alliance troops used shaped charges to breach the final barrier. Admiral June led the assault personally, his weapon drawn but not yet fired. "By what right do you enter this sacred place?" Velthane demanded, his crystal body blazing with contained energy. "By the right of every free being to resist oppression," June replied. "By the right of species to determine their own destiny. By the right that you tried to take from us." War Marshal Zethkara stepped forward, his biomechanical form towering over the human admiral. "You are insects challenging gods. Even if you kill us, the Council's fleets will hunt you across the galaxy." "Will they?" June asked. "Look around. Your fleets are destroying each other. Your networks are collapsing. Your perfect order is coming apart because you forgot the most important truth in the universe." "What truth?" Velthane asked, genuinely curious despite himself. "That consciousness cannot be controlled. That life finds a way to be free. That no matter how powerful you become, you cannot force every being in the galaxy to think the same way forever." The quantum disruptor's effects were spreading beyond the immediate battle. Across the galaxy, species that had submitted to Council rule for thousands of years suddenly found their suppressed desires for freedom flooding back. Rebellions erupted on 1,000 worlds as the rigid mental control that had maintained the old order collapsed. Velthane realized that the battle was already lost, not through military defeat but through the liberation of consciousness itself. The humans had not just attacked Nexus Prime. They had attacked the very concept of forced submission. "What do you want?" the High Arbiter asked. "The dissolution of the Galactic Council," June replied. "The establishment of a new galactic republic where every species has a voice. The guarantee that no group of beings will ever again claim the right to rule over others without their consent." "And if we refuse?" June gestured toward the walls of the chamber, which were displaying feeds from across the galaxy. Everywhere, the quantum interference had triggered uprisings as suppressed minds rediscovered their desire for freedom. Then the galaxy will tear itself apart until freedom wins anyway. But millions will die in the chaos. You can end this now by accepting that the age of rule by force is over. Velthane looked at his fellow council members. Some raged against the impossible situation. Others seemed broken by the collapse of their eternal order.